I was asked to provide feedback as a practitioner who has been through an AHPRA investigation process. An upfront disclaimer, I'm not a registered psychologist, so this is my personal lived experience. For me, what's important is the procedural fairness, and with the investigation, I think first of all that all stakeholders involved in the critical incident should be interviewed and should provide evidence, and particularly if there's a very complex situation, that the context, the causative factors, the circumstances, the risks, the procedural gaps, I believe should all be taken into account so that there is that reflective practice and there's that learning on what went wrong and how do we prevent this going forward. I feel any decision that is made should be made legally without bias and with proper fairness for the individuals concerned. For me, what's important is the independence as well, and I think with my concerns is with AHPRA, with the jurisdiction, is the focus is on the practitioner and not on, let's say, for example, the complainant. Or so if there is a potential criminal element involved, or if there is even whistleblower targeting, that's not brought into account. And the risk with that is that there's a one-sided narrative, like just one story that's put together that the practitioner then has to defend throughout it. The other thing that's important for me is the concept of like Chinese walls and the separation of powers, and that's that there should be no bias and ties between decision makers in the process. It really needs to be independent in terms of who's accessing the information and making an independent, fair, thorough, unbiased judgment of the situation. And the role of the professional indemnity lawyer, I think, really needs to be looked at, because they may be looking out for the best interests of the insurer, but what you need as a practitioner is you need somebody who's helping you to put together a solid defense that assists you in the long term as a whole. So it should be fair and it should be independent. My last point is around support, and this is like around the trauma of the process. It for me was a harrowing experience, really, really traumatic. And I would have liked an in-person contact, particularly since I was concerned about my technology being accessed. I would have liked one person to speak to in person to go through the whole thing. It's important that the approach is not combative and there's no animus, and that any stress is de-escalated in